The Desperate Man by Gustave Courbet and Vincent van Gogh's 1889 self-portrait are two very distinguishable artworks. Each are representations of the peak of their art movements, very different and very much alike in many ways. This presentation will demonstrate the artistic genius of both 19th century painters, the most well-known of their movements, and how each are significant in self-expression through portraiture. First, we will be taking a look at realism, an art movement most popular in the 1840s. Realism is loosely defined as an attempt to represent the subject matter truthfully. It began in France after the 1848 Revolution. It rejects the extremely popular Romantic period preceding this revolution. Gustave Courbet is known as the leader of the realism movement in France. Undoubtedly, his most recognizable painting is Le Désespéré, or The Desperate Man. It is a truly riveting composition, full of expression and, most importantly, real emotion. It is so captivating, it has been recreated by all different kinds of artists in many different styles, with many different subjects. Courbet uses dramatic lighting to create contrast and interest. There is very intense detail in the folds of fabric, hair, and strained hands. Courbet chose to engage the viewer by gazing straight forward as if making eye contact, or as if we are gazing through the mirror at him. After the Revolution of 1848, a strong sense of freedom influenced many artistic movements, realism being the most well-known. After this realization, Courbet went on to create some of his most recognized paintings, The Stonebreakers and Burial at Ornans. Courbet portrayed those he painted in truth, showing all emotion and struggle at a level of society that many could relate to. He is known politically as a compassionate socialist who made friends with influential writers, politicians, and poets of the time. In Gustave Courbet, His Life and Art, Jack Lindsay wrote of a letter to one of these poets. Gustave writes, "In spite of the oppression weighing on our generation, we are strong enough despite the renegades. We'll save art, intellect, and honesty in our land." The Desperate Man was an extremely important painting to Courbet, so much so that he took it into exile with him in Switzerland. It is unique for many reasons, one of those being his decision to turn his canvas sideways into landscape orientation. Though Courbet's choice of dramatic expression is often debated, one thing remains the same. The Desperate Man is relatable to many. It is emotional and real. Why he chose to express himself this way may always be disagreed upon, but is yet to fail to communicate with everyone who sees it, generation after generation. Post-Impressionism is one of the more well-known art movements of the 19th century, most notably for the artists that popularized the style, such as Vincent van Gogh and Georges Seurat. Vincent van Gogh, like Courbet, is no stranger to resistance of the public against his art. In his lifetime, he only sold one painting, and his artistic style and genius were only realized many years after his death. This seems so surprising as Starry Night is reproduced constantly in today's art culture, and Van Gogh is a household name. In fact, he now has many famous paintings and several self-portraits. Van Gogh's 1889 self-portrait is a striking, nearly monochromatic composition. His strong use of brushstroke, so important to the post-impressionistic movement, acts as a signature recognizable to many, and was painted only a few months before his death in 1890. Van Gogh also chose to engage the audience through eye contact, although his body faces away from the viewer as if he has turned his head to inspect us. Unlike realism, there is no sense of space or of dimension. A.M. Homaker wrote, "Van Gogh makes no distinction between the subject and object. His use of color is too intense, and his lines are too charged with inner emotion, so that in fact all distance is abolished." Instead, the eye is drawn to the expressive colors and the intensity of the brushstroke. These wavelength-like strokes allow the viewer to connect with Van Gogh and emit a sense of movement and vibration. As mentioned before, Van Gogh painted many self-portraits in a search for artistic identity. Knowing this particular self-portrait was painted close to his death, and in comparison to his past works, confidence can be seen more easily in the expression he is wearing. Van Gogh is known for his difficult journey in life. Robert Fry describes him as a strange being with an extraordinary artistic odyssey. Fry also says he manages to convey so much of his beliefs, his passions, and of their effect of his temperament. What strikes one all through his work is the total self-abandonment of man. Vincent van Gogh and Gustave Courbet fought for many things in their life, and their self-portraits not only portray men who struggled against the opinions of this world, but men who were human, deeply devoted to art and self-expression.